We live these little bitty lives, well, 82 so far up here, I don't know about you. And we think that we can limit God. Oh, let's get a break. My students will tell you that, I'd like this morning to try to work it out with you a little bit while we have time. My students will tell you, and Reverend Shockley will probably support that I suggest we start by refusing to demonize anybody. Okay? That's going to be the beginning of trying to say we believe in one God and really mean it. We won't demonize anybody. Okay. And so you get up in the morning and you say to yourself in the mirror, I'm going to monotheize today. I am. I'm going to do it. I'll refuse to belittle an opponent or anyone who disagrees with me. I'll try to learn from them. And you can usually manage to get through the morning routine if you don't listen to the news or read the newspaper. And then you leave the house and you go out and then you encounter the world. And then by lunch, it's nearly impossible. How can people do and say the things they do? And by noon, you have a headache so intense, you have to polytheize just to get relief. Usually by assigning to the devil all the things we don't like and thanking God for every good and perfect gift. Of course, every gift that I think is good and perfect, from my point of view, right? Yeah. That's not monotheizing. It's hard to do, but we got to do it. We've got to try if we're going to move into the 21st century at all. The reason there's so many wars is that each one of us thinks that we've got the right concept. Well, you might get killed, but at least you won't have a headache. Dora and I have lived for several occasions. I can't even remember how many, twice a year and a half on the West Bank and in East Jerusalem. We found it difficult there to affirm belief in one God of all. On the one hand, the Israelis live in fear of what they call terrorism. Of course, the British called them terrorists before 1947. The Irgun and the Haganah and the Stern Gang, they were all terrorists. We would have called them terrorists. Oh, but they won, you see, therefore they're the patriots, right? They're the right ones. History is always written by the victors, not by the defeated. So we find it hard to do. If you're Palestinian, you live in deep despair and constant humiliation. You're stopped at roadblocks every mile or two just to get home. We don't know anything about this. You say, well, if they didn't have terrorists, we wouldn't do that. And so we're belittling and demeaning a whole population because some of them got fed up with the despair. Brother Martin Luther King once said, I have seen the power of God to transform the fatigue of despair into the buoyancy of hope. And that's what we have to have. And that's what they practice far more than we do, Palestinians. Among non-Jewish archaeologists, there's an old saying that if one has lived on the West Bank or in East Jerusalem for at least 6 months, you become a rabid pro-Palestinian. You may not have met many, but that's true, they are. If you live for 6 months on the Israeli side, on the west side of Jerusalem, or in Israel, then you're pro-Israeli. That just, we're biased to what we know. But Palestinians ask us every so once in a while, what is there ethical about the Christian West, and we live in it, unilaterally 60 years ago giving Palestinian land and Palestinian homes to Jews because of Western anti-Semitism that came to a head in Hitler's Germany. What's just about it? What's ethical about that? Maybe if we'd given them Bavaria, that would have made more sense. Or Baden-Württemberg. But no, we gave them Palestine. I've often thought we should give New Jersey back to the Algonquins. Just to see what would happen. So where can we start? Just to get through the day, believing in one God of all. Jesus in his teaching states clearly we cannot worship God in mammon. That is money. Wealth, as the translation had it this morning. That's right. Let's try to understand that we might get somewhere. Let's try it. Let's see how far we can get by refusing to worship money. Just try. We daily witness the selfish tendency of our own supposedly Christian country to mortgage our children's and grandchildren's future. There's borrow from foreign countries rather than tax ourselves and pay as you go. It's what the Republican Party used to stand for. And now there's the so-called Tea Party groups rebelling against paying the lowest taxation rates we've had in years. A sense of responsibility for the common good of all seems to be forgotten. Commercials on television show common folk, just like you and me, shouting, "I want my money, I want my money, where's my money?" I cringe every time I hear it. Dora and I grew up in the Depression. In the 30s, we went to grammar school in the 30s and went to high school during the war. You know, during the Depression, there was a lot to buy, no money to buy it with. During the war, there was plenty of money. All the guys were at the front, and everybody had a job with the war effort, but there was nothing to buy. I remember ration cards. Not many of you old enough in here remember ration cards, maybe one or two, yes. Well, let's see what we can do here. Old families like the, we're taught, we should be taught at any rate, that whatever money we have, whatever that checkbook of yours is worth, we're stewards of that bit of God's creation. We don't own it. Old families like the Vanderbilts and the Roosevelts and the Kennedys and the Rockefellers were all taught that it was not their money. It was God's, and they were but stewards of whatever they had. Warren Buffett has that idea too. Today, but very few do. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said taxes are what we pay for a civilized society because they allow government to invest in a better quality of life for us all, not just the rich. I've been a Presbyterian most of my life, and I've gone around the country back and forth for a number of years, preaching in Presbyterian churches and lecturing Presbyterian pastors and running Presbyterian pastor schools, and just every once in a while I would in preaching I would lean into the microphone, you know, I'd say, you know, I know some Presbyterians, not here, of course, in Fourth Church Chicago, of course not, but I know some Presbyterians who think they own something. In this brief passage, from the cradle to the grave, in this short life from the womb to the tomb, in this very brief span from the sperm to the worm. There's a fourth one, but I might be embarrassing. I won't go there.